Under the blistering midday sun of Harare, Zimbabwe, a quiet but monumental shift was taking place. It wasn't in the bustling markets or the political halls, it was happening in an unassuming industrial park, where a man named Maxwell stood before a sleek metallic tower, humming faintly as if alive. The tower wasn't a cell signal mast or a radio antenna. It was something far more disruptive, a wireless power transmitter capable of sending electricity across vast distances, without a single cable in sight. This was not a futuristic concept sketch or a tech blogger's dream. It was here, operational, and ready to scale. Maxwell called it the wireless charging network, and its mission was nothing short of electrifying the entire African continent without the traditional constraints of a power grid. The vision? To leapfrog decades of outdated infrastructure and bring energy to every village, town, and city with the invisible touch of the air itself. The technology relied on a proprietary RF energy transmission system that defied conventional engineering expectations. Instead of giant substations and kilometers of costly copper wire, it used strategically placed transmitters, each capable of sending concentrated, safe beams of power to specially designed receivers. These receivers, no larger than a tablet, could be mounted on homes, vehicles, even streetlights, instantly powering them up. At a demonstration in front of invited engineers, journalists, and government officials, Maxwell walked over to an electric motorcycle parked 20 meters away from the tower. There were no wires, no charging pad, just the motorcycle. He pressed a button. Instantly, the bike's dashboard lit up, battery level at 100%, without having been physically plugged in. A murmur swept through the crowd, followed by an audible gasp when a drone took off from the roof of a nearby building, powered entirely through the air. Maxwell didn't just see this as a technological triumph, he saw it as liberation. "The sun sets on energy poverty today," he declared to the crowd. "No more waiting for grid extensions that never arrive. No more blackouts because of stolen cables. This is the end of dependence and the start of true energy freedom." But for all the awe, there was an undercurrent of tension. Energy conglomerates, both local and international, had reason to worry. If this network spread, billions of dollars in planned infrastructure projects could become obsolete overnight. Whispers of political interference, quiet offers to buy the patents, and even veiled threats had already reached Maxwell's ears. Still, he pressed forward, convinced that the stakes were too high to back down. What the audience didn't yet know was that this small demonstration was just the beginning. Behind closed doors, Maxwell's team had already set up 3 large-scale test zones, each blanketing a 10-kilometer radius in wireless electricity. Remote schools were running laptops without ever plugging them in. Water pumps in arid villages were drawing fresh water without diesel generators. Even hospitals, once plagued by outages, were keeping life-saving equipment running without fear of the lights going out. The plan was to power an entire city solely through the wireless network for 7 consecutive days, with zero connection to the national grid. The chosen site was a bustling mid-sized town on the outskirts of Bulawayo, home to over 80,000 people. For months, Maxwell's engineers had been quietly installing transmitters on rooftops, water towers, and disguised within street lamps. Receivers were embedded into homes, businesses, public transport, and essential infrastructure. On the morning of the test, as the national grid connection was cut, there was a brief, almost eerie silence. Then, one by one, lights flickered on, not with the stuttering glow of an overburdened generator, but with a steady, clean brightness. Refrigerators hummed, fans whirred, and internet routers blinked to life. By nightfall, the entire city glowed like a constellation seen from above. Cafes stayed open late, students studied under steady light, and for the first time in living memory, not a single blackout was reported. The wireless energy transmitters handled everything, the street lights, the water treatment plant, even the electric minibus fleet, without a single hiccup. International media descended almost instantly, their cameras capturing children charging tablets while sitting outside, nowhere near a socket. Energy analysts were stunned by the stability of the network, especially given the lack of traditional backup systems. But not everyone was celebrating. Within days, a coalition of global utility companies filed a legal petition, claiming Maxwell's wireless network posed unregulated competition and safety uncertainties. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. These were the same companies that had failed for decades to deliver reliable electricity to millions. Undeterred, Maxwell held a press conference on the final day of the trial. Standing against the backdrop of the fully lit city, he addressed both his supporters and detractors. "You cannot put the genie back in the bottle," he said. "This is Africa's power revolution, and no amount of fear, doubt, or intimidation will stop it." That night, as the transmitters continued to hum under the starlit sky, word spread of new partnerships forming in neighboring countries. Governments from Kenya to Ghana were in talks to pilot their own wireless grids. Rumors even hinted that small island nations, far from Africa, were expressing interest. The message came from a private, encrypted channel, one Maxwell rarely used except for sensitive communications. It bore the seal of an international technology consortium headquartered in Geneva. The sender was a name he recognized instantly: Dr. Lena Harcourt, a leading figure in renewable energy policy and an advisor to the United Nations. Her words were concise, almost urgent. "Your technology is no longer a regional breakthrough, it's a matter of global interest. The UN Energy Council wants to meet. Immediate." Within a week, Maxwell found himself flying to Switzerland aboard a modest charter, carrying only a secure tablet loaded with encrypted schematics of his wireless network. When he arrived at the UN headquarters, the atmosphere was charged. Delegates from over 30 nations were present, each representing regions where energy poverty still crippled growth. Harcourt opened the session by projecting live footage from Bulawayo's week-long trial, followed by technical readouts showing near-zero energy loss over distance, stable delivery rates, and flawless safety metrics. The delegates murmured in disbelief, especially those from countries where even partial rural electrification had been a decades-long struggle. Then came the harder questions. Could this scale to a megacity? Would it work in dense urban environments like Lagos or Cairo? How would it coexist with existing power grids? And most importantly, who would control it? Maxwell listened patiently before responding. "This was never meant to be monopolized. This is open-source power distribution. My team will license it to nations, not corporations, and at terms that make sense for the people, not just the investors." The room erupted, half in applause, half in strategic whispers. The promise of a truly democratized power system was both thrilling and deeply unsettling to those whose economies depended on controlling energy access. After hours of deliberations, a quiet but pivotal agreement emerged. The UN would fund a pilot in 3 countries, chosen for their drastically different terrains and power demands. One in Africa, one in South America, one in Southeast Asia. If successful, the wireless network could become part of a new global framework for clean, universal energy access. As Maxwell left the building that night, snow drifting down in the Geneva air, he realized this was no longer just about Africa. His invention was now entangled in the ambitions and fears of the entire world. Somewhere deep down, he knew the next phase wouldn't be about proving the technology worked, it would be about protecting it from those determined to control or destroy it. The attack was precise, almost surgical. A single transmitter in the network was disabled, causing a brief power fluctuation in the surrounding district. It was enough to send a wave of panic through the community and give Maxwell's opponents a talking point. "See? It's vulnerable." But Maxwell knew this was no ordinary malfunction. The system's diagnostics revealed evidence of a remote intrusion. Someone had bypassed multiple encryption layers, accessed the transmitter's control software, and issued a shutdown command. Whoever it was, they weren't amateurs. Within hours, Maxwell convened his core engineering team in a secure underground lab. The room was tense. Maps of transmitter locations flashed on the wall, each marked with real-time performance data. A red indicator blinked over the compromised hub. "This isn't about breaking the tech," Maxwell said, his voice steady but sharp. "It's about breaking trust. They want people to believe this network isn't safe." One of his senior engineers, a cyber defense specialist named Thabo, traced the digital attack back to a cluster of servers hosted in multiple countries, routed through a maze of proxies. But there was one trace they couldn't hide, a millisecond delay in packet response times that revealed the attacker's command center was somewhere in northern Europe. The next day, as the African media reassured the public and the transmitter was restored, Maxwell received an anonymous message. It contained only 2 words: "Walk away." He didn't. Instead, Maxwell doubled down. His team deployed an AI-driven defense shield capable of detecting and neutralizing intrusion attempts before they reached the transmitters. More importantly, he launched a live, transparent broadcast, allowing anyone, anywhere in the world, to watch the network's real-time performance and security status. If they wanted to scare people into abandoning this technology, they would now have to do it in full view of the world. What Maxwell didn't know was that while his focus was on defending the network from cyber attacks, his adversaries were preparing a much more dangerous move, one that would strike not at the machines, but at the man himself.